The wait is finally over. The Mandalorian Season 3 is here. Chapter 17, The Apostate, has dropped on Disney Plus to kick off this highly anticipated season. Djarin and Grogu are set to begin their next adventure, which looks to be taking them to the planet Mandalore in a potential quest to unite the Mandalorian clans with the Darksaber. This week's episode was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who previously directed Chapter 2, The Child, in Season 1, and 2 episodes in Season 2, those being Chapter 6, The Prisoner, and Chapter 15, The Believer. Famuyiwa is also serving as an executive producer this season, as Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's roles continue to grow with Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. But enough about that, let's dive into things and break down the plot, as well as any Easter eggs you may have missed in The Mandalorian Chapter 17. This is the way. We begin with a hand pouring some water into a tub, the liquid shimmering as it makes contact. A silver mythosaur skull is mounted on the wall. This served as an emblem for Mandalorians, the mythosaur having once been a beast found on Mandalore, which would allegedly be tamed and ridden by ancient Mandalorians. A mythosaur appears on Boba Fett's armor, and Grogu was given a mythosaur necklace earlier in the series. We catch up with our first character, the unnamed Mandalorian played by Emily Swallow, and known simply as the Armorer. She begins to forge a round piece of Beskar before dipping it into the cool water. We then see her cutting a visor and attaching the side piece to a new Mandalorian helmet, which is given a blue paint job. Outside of the cavern, several Mandalorians are lined up while a boy stands in the water. The last we saw the Armorer and her group of Mandalorians, known as the Children of the Watch, it was just her and Paz Vizsla who remained after the Empire took Navarro 7 in Season 1. The Armorer carries this newly forged helmet, as she's followed by Mandalorians holding a mythosaur banner, as well as one that bears the sigil of Clan Vizsla, of which Paz Vizsla belongs to, as does Pre Vizsla from the Clone Wars, and Tar Vizsla, the only Mandalorian to be inducted into the Jedi Order, a powerful house indeed. The Armorer presents this helmet to the young boy, who stands in the water, clearly a Mandalorian foundling, a child adopted by the warriors, like Din Djarin many decades prior. The child then repeats, "I swear on my name and the names of the ancestors, that I shall walk the way of the Mandalore, and the words of the creed shall be forever forged in my heart." The helmet is placed upon the foundling's head, as they all say, "This is the way." The Armorer fills a bowl up with water, which is what she was forging prior to the helmet, and asks him to repeat, "From this moment on, I shall never remove my helmet." Now, this young Mandalorian was actually played by the same actor who portrayed the young Tusken Raider in the Book of Boba Fett, believe it or not. Things suddenly take a turn and a giant alligator-like creature emerges from the water and attacks. The Mandalorians draw their weapons and begin to fight back. This really reminded me of Season 2's first episode, Chapter 9, The Marshal, when Mando and Cobb Vanth took on the massive Krayt Dragon on Tatooine. The Mandalorians' blasters didn't seem to be doing much damage. Even Vizsla's massive heavy cannon wasn't enough. A few Mandalorians jumped onto the beast's back and gave grenades a shot, which also didn't seem to work. Next up was the grappling hooks, which failed when the beast pulled out a gigantic gator roll and dragged several underwater. The Armorer ran in after one. For a second, I thought she was about to bash the thing with a hammer to the nose, but at last rescue came in the form of our main character, Din Djarin, aboard his modified N1 starfighter, which he built during the Book of Boba Fett, following the Razor Crest explosion last season. Din hit the beast with a proton torpedo, the same type of blast which Anakin Skywalker used to destroy the Trade Federation control ship in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, aboard that very same model of ship. The Mandalorians all look on, alligator meat scattered everywhere, as Din looks on and Grogu's face pops up in his little bubble. Roll the title card, as we learn Chapter 17 is titled The Apostate. Back inside the forge, Din looks to talk with the Armorer, who gives him a similar speech to that of what she did in the Book of Boba Fett, reminding Din that he willingly removed his helmet and is therefore no longer a Mandalorian. Din reiterates his plan to venture to the mines of Mandalore for redemption. The Armorer reminds him that the planet was destroyed during the Great Mandalorian Purge. That's when he pulls out a piece of crystal with an inscription in the Mandalorian language, which he claims he bought off some Jawas. They got it from a traveler who claimed to have visited the surface of Mandalore. Could that be someone we'll meet by this season's end? The armorer says that this only proves the planet's surface was crystallized due to fusion rays, but Din says that if a traveler was able to retrieve it, the surface must not be poisoned. He plans to redeem himself and return with proof he will see her again. Our favorite duo then blast off into hyperspace in the hot rod of a starship. Grogu looks outside of his dome at the flashing blue and white, observing some sort of a giant creature, which seems to be traveling just as fast as they are. These look to be purrgils, a species of massive whales which live deep in space and travel between star systems. These creatures appeared throughout Star Wars Rebels. We zoom out and realize that there are several, which begin to intimidate Grogu, who opts to cozy up on Din's lap. The pair arrive at a familiar Mandalorian location from prior seasons, Navarro 7. The planet has greatly changed since the Mandalorian Season 1, no longer an unsightly planet due to the rule of bounty hunters and the Empire. The former bounty hunter boss, Greef Karga, has had a change of heart, becoming Navarro's High Magistrate. The planet is now much better off, a beautiful haven in the Outer Rim. A few small Easter eggs include the same type of kitchen robot from Jabba's palace that we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, a Mon Calamari, the same species as Admiral Akbar, and some Kowakian monkey lizards, the same species as Jabba the Hutt's Salicious Bee Crumb. Navarro certainly seems to be more welcoming to them, as in Season 1 they were being cooked alive in the streets. A statue has been erected of IG-11, the assassin droid from Season 1, who, after hunting Grogu like Din Djarin originally had, self-destructed and allowed our heroes to escape Moff Gideon's forces. Din and Greef Karga then reunite and head inside to catch up, as two little droids carry Greef's long and flowing cape. The High Magistrate tells Din of Navarro's turnaround and offers Din a place to stay if he wishes to hang up the blaster. The Mandalorian declines and informs Karga of Grogu's name for the first time. We then essentially jump into the scene which the official Star Wars outlets posted last week, in which Din informs Karga of his quest to Mandalore and catches up the Magistrate, as well as any viewers who skipped out on the Book of Boba Fett, as to why Grogu was returned to him from Luke Skywalker. Just then, some pirates, led by a Nikto named Vane, show up. They're looking for Karga and a drink at a former bar, which has now become a school for local children, likely the same one which Grogu spent some time at last season when he stole some macaroons. The school has me wondering if this could also bear some connection to the upcoming Skeleton Crew series led by Jude Law. We know it will have a Mandalorian connection with a premise of some children who are lost in space. Karga refuses to serve the pirates a drink in the school as they accuse him of going soft. That's when he reveals a holstered blaster and tells them to try him. It's time for a good old Western standoff, which are coming to be a regular thing in this era of Star Wars. Greef shoots the blaster out of Vane's hand and tells him to pass along the message that Navarro is close to pirates. The other pirates draw their weapons, prompting Din and Greef to gun them down. Greef tells Din he needs a new marshal, Cara Dune having been recruited by Special Forces after bringing in Moff Gideon, who was sent to a New Republic war tribunal. Obviously, we won't be seeing Dune after the Gina Carano situation, but Moff Gideon is slated to appear at some point this season. Maybe he busts out, or in a weird twist, Din has to go to him for help in a classic movie trope. Din, of course, declines. He's on another path right now. What he came to Navarro for was to bring IG-11 back from the dead. Din needs a droid he can trust to help him on Mandalore. They take IG-11 inside as Din begins to reconstruct him. Finally, his hands begin to move as he powers up, and we hear Taika Waititi's voice once again. As soon as IG-11 sees Grogu, he reverts back to his primary programming from Season 1 and attempts to terminate our little green friend. The droid goes as far as dragging himself with one attached arm. Too bad Anakin Skywalker didn't have that level of fight left in him. The droid is finally neutralized when a statue crushes his head. A better droidsmith will be required to fix IG-11. Those droidsmiths turn out to be Anzellans, the same species as Babu Frick, who worked on C-3PO in The Rise of Skywalker. The Chief Anzellan tells Din that IG-11 needs a new memory circuit, and new memory circuits are just about impossible to find. There's our next episode's plot, it seems. With that, Din and Grogu take to the skies again, where just as Din begins explaining how to navigate a spaceship, they engage in an intense dogfight with Vane and some other pirates. Din outmaneuvers his opponents using some nearby asteroids for cover, only to wind up in the guns of the hulking vessel of pirate King Gorian Shard, a swamp monster looking creature. Din punches it as Shard growls in anger. I expect we'll be seeing him once again. Our final destination this week is Kalevala, a planet in the Mandalorian system that's also home to a looming Mandalorian castle. After they're greeted by a lonely medical droid, Din and Grogu make their way to the throne room, where they find Bo-Katan Kryze sitting upon the throne. Din immediately offers to join her, but Bo-Katan tells him there's nothing left to join. Without the Darksaber, her forces disappeared and became mercenaries. She tells Din if he still has the saber to wave it around and others will follow. He asks if she's given up her plans to take Mandalore. Bo responds by telling Din that his cult gave up on Mandalore long before the Purge, of course referring to the Children of the Watch. Din tells her of his plan to venture to Mandalore in order to seek redemption. She tells him the mines only supplied Beskar, anything else was just superstition. Bo tells him the mines are beneath the city of Sundari. We visited this very city several times throughout the Clone Wars, and I can't wait to see it in live action. We end the episode with Din Djarin promising to prove that the planet is not cursed or poisoned, and Bo-Katan saying goodbye. What a strong start to the season. I personally can't wait to see Din fully repair IG-11 and finally journey to Mandalore. It was really cool to see the different ideologies between Bo-Katan and the Armorer. I do wonder if Din will be much more like Bo come the season's end, perhaps even clashing with the Armorer. Maybe she's really an antagonist and will clash with Bo and Din come season's end. But how did you feel about The Mandalorian Chapter 17 and Season 3's premiere? Let us know down in the comments below. We'll catch you right here for our Chapter 18 breakdown next week. If you did enjoy, make sure to click the like button and subscribe if you are new to join the Red Squadron. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you. Red 5 standing by.